Hello and welcome to Sketch Together. My name is Pablo Stanley, and today we're going to be doing a design review of some logos. These logos were submitted to a design challenge called the Space Challenge. The brief was to create a logo for a space travel company that is cool as Virgin America and Nike. Cool. I think the winners are going to be announced this weekend. I'm just going to be reviewing some of the logos, just giving my feedback. And I think the winners get a MacBook Pro, which is pretty dope. I'm going to focus my feedback on the things that I liked and some opinions on things that probably could be improved. For me, logos have to be simple, readable, and easy to reproduce. So I'm going to give feedback on logos based on those principles. And that's it. Let's begin. I'm seeing here a logo from Spencer Colaco. And this logo looks simple. You removed some of the elements on the wordmark. I would like to know more about your thinking behind the hearts. I suppose it's just for people that really love space travel. I like the negative space on the E, that is just like 3 lines and it doesn't have the line on the left. And also how it's a little bit tilted and it's taking a little bit of space from the C. The D felt a little bit too sharp. You're using soft rounded shapes on the hearts and then suddenly the D is really sharp. For example, the S also has like really rounded shapes. So probably you can explore doing something there differently with the D. But cool, Spencer. Okay, now I'm looking at Rock Gonzalez, and Rock Gonzalez has a wordmark where the A looks like a spaceship. It's pretty cool, it's pretty clever. I also like how the C and the D are pretty much just the same shape, but it's just like flipped. It forms this symmetric shape. Also, this is one of the few that actually explored an icon. And the icon has some negative space with the S. It looks like it's 2 comets or 2, celestial things. But also on the negative space, it forms an S for space. I would say that those shapes don't repeat on the wordmark. Those comets, they have like really sharp edges at the end. But I feel like it doesn't belong with the wordmark. The wordmark and the icon almost seem like they're from different logos. Even the S is like really rounded, and on the wordmark it has like sharp edges. It almost feels like a 5 that was flipped. So I would recommend, or probably on the wordmark, using the same S as you're using on your icon. That way both of them are using the same elements. Probably the comets could replicate some of the elements from your wordmark too. But yeah, just keep exploring. Okay, now I'm looking at Rio Purvas. Rio Purva has a tilted logo that is just tilted to the right. It feels like it's moving because it's space and it's speed and it's going through the stars. There's a line in the middle pointing to the right, like it's movement. And it's almost like from the A it's starting and it's moving through the E and through the D, and you have like a point there, and probably that point simulates like a planet or the destination. It could be a little bit confusing on the C, because on the C it could read like a G, or it could actually read like an E too. It could read as paged. So probably you don't want that. So just be careful with that. I like the, it's very consistent how you use your strokes and your outlines and all your shapes. Sometimes when logos are tilted, after our 3 or 4 years, the company, then they go back to whoop, they de-tilted. But it's fun to have a tilted logo in the beginning, I guess, and it does convey that feeling of movement and speed. So Rio, it's a good exploration. I would invite you to make some changes there on the C to make it look less like a G. Okay, now I'm looking at Felix Obina's logo. It's pretty simple, it's just a sans serif, and what makes it stand out a little bit is that the A is a spaceship, and the spaceship is pretty simple. It's just a triangle and some shapes below to make it look like it's flying up the air. I would have liked to see more explorations on the A, or at least see what you explore other than that shape for the spaceship. The rest of your word mark, the shapes are really friendly and welcoming. The sharpness of that triangle seems a little bit off. So probably there are some adjustments that you can do on some of the corners to make it feel more like part of the logo. Keep exploring with the A to different shapes on the chip. Probably even simplify the fire. I'm seeing that it's 3 lines. Try different things, I would say. Okay, so now I'm looking at Color Labies. It's just an input box with a lot of spaces and then a D at the end, because space, but like the space bar, I guess. Yeah, okay. Okay, now I'm looking at Jason's logo, and his logo has a typeface that is really thin, really elegant, really simple. It's just a sans, I don't know, geometric, really thin serif. And also it has a planet with what looks to be an orbit, and it's crossing the A. It's part of the middle line in the A. I should know what's the name of that middle line on the A. Can you, on the comments, correct me? Explore, having a typeface that it's a little bit thicker, which is totally against what you're doing, what you're going with. I would like to know more your reasoning behind that typeface. My only concern will be that it's not as readable like on a chip, for example. It's going to be up in space, or it's going to be a logo that needs to be seen from far away. For it to stand out, probably needs a different treatment on the weight of your strokes. So I would say keep that same typeface, just explore something that is a little bit thicker, that is more legible. I like how the planet on the P, on the letter P, it's there. It's a very creative way of using the P. I would say that it's calling attention to itself a lot. It's standing out too much from the rest of the word mark. And that probably was your intention. I think those elements need to blend in a little bit more with the rest of the word mark. Probably just like making those outlines a little bit thicker could make those shapes that are like solid circle, make it fit more with the rest of the word mark. Good exploration, Jason. Keep working on it. So now I'm looking at Andrea Tabolaro's logo. I couldn't find a clean version of his logo. I just found it with Elon Musk everywhere else, and I suppose it's his spacecraft or something. I do see the logo on an exploration where it's just the logo, but I see a planet behind, so it's kind of hard for me to see the actual shapes. In the presentation of your logo, try to have at least one version where you only see your logo in black and white, so you can actually just see the shapes, focus on how the elements are placed against a negative and a positive background. That's just a feedback on the presentation. I like the exploration of having the line that just like goes across the logo. I think that it suffers from the same problem that on a previous logo, where now the C has an outline in the middle. And if you were to put this logo in black and white, then the C will look like a G because it has a line in the middle. Just keep exploring in a way where you make sure that your logo will work in black and white perfectly, and it will read and it will be legible, and people will not be confused about what they're reading. I like the exploration on the S. It's just like a very weird, almost infinite logo. The P also gets cut a little bit, and I think it gets cut by that line. So yeah, Andrea, just work on the presentation to have something that is more legible, more readable. Simplify your shapes. Probably you will have something very solid there. Okay, now I'm seeing Up's design. Ups with a Z. His logo has, it uses 3 planets that is forming like a triangle. I don't think I saw this kind of treatment in other logos where you actually see more than 1 planet. I'm seeing one treatment where you see like a triangle and like the space, the word mark, and the icon. It almost makes me feel like it's a patch from NASA. I would say that I see some inconsistencies in your word mark. The A looks like it's closed, like a closed triangle, and some of your explorations, and some of them it's not. So just make a choice. Either one is cool. I would also probably move those elements, the planets. They don't feel very well balanced. It's kind of like leaning towards the right. Saturn, is that Saturn? The one with the ring in the middle? It feels like it's closer to the center, so it almost feels like the triangle is going to fall. So I will recommend probably moving it a little bit below so it just balances out, just to make it feel like it's solid. So just move the elements around and I think you'll have something pretty cool. So now I'm looking at Elisa Raga's logo. It has a lot of outlines and it has like geometric shapes, and like it's almost like a grid. Also, it has the word mark in the middle, and the word mark is just using a geometric sans serif, which is, I really like that typeface. Whatever that typeface is that you're using, it looks like Gotham. I don't know, whatever you're using, it's pretty cool. You didn't go with anything flashy on the typeface. Sometimes I just appreciate that. Just leave the typeface as it is. Just probably make some tiny changes, but don't try to overdo it. Just keep it legible. The actual logo with the outlines and the grid, I can. It's hard for me to imagine this in like an emblem where it's just one color. If your intention is to use that as an icon, then that icon is going to be really hard to reproduce. So I would say just try to simplify it. But maybe I'm wrong. Probably this is just a grid that I'm looking at, and probably all those lines go away. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And probably the only thing that I should be looking at is the word mark, the circle, and that triangle. And if that's the case, then it is probably easily reproducible. Probably that circle could be black, and the PACE could be white, and so it just like cuts through the black circle. That's a way that you could use this logo and keep that circle and that triangle. I suppose the triangle and the circle is just it's pointing upwards to the space, and it's also a planet. So you're using different shapes to same shapes to say different things. I appreciate that. So yeah, nice work, Elisa. Okay, so now I'm looking at Barack Tamayo's logo, and he's also going with just the word mark, and the A, it's mimicking a spaceship. This one is also pretty simple. I would like to know which typeface you're using. I suppose it might be Futura. It's always safe to use this sans serif. I like that the A is a little bit playful and the A is like going upwards. I would say that probably the outlines that are mimicking the fire, the engine, in relationship with the other strokes, with the weight of the other outlines, it's a little bit too thin. Probably you can balance those outlines to feel more like part of the rest of the logo. That's just an opinion. Probably I'm wrong, but I would invite you to try that out. And yeah, pretty simple, straightforward. I can see a company using this logo. Nice work, Barack. Okay, so now we're looking at the logo from John T. Bowers. And John T. Bowers is using rounded corners in some of the shapes. And it's being repeated across the rest of the word mark, across the rest of the logo. I really like that it's consistent on how those little elements are being used. You can see on the E, the top and the bottom, they're just flipped. Makes it feel like aerodynamic, like it's ready to just go through the air. And it feels space-like. I don't know, those kind of shapes where sometimes they're sharp and sometimes they're soft. It makes you feel like that. I like his use of negative space, and also the P and the S. It's almost like there's a shape that in the middle, if you only see at the negative space, there's something there that just like bring those two letters together. And obviously the last 3 letters, it almost feels like it's one single shape, symmetric shape. The C the E in the middle, and then the D on the other side flipped. I would say the E is a little bit crazy. It's kind of cool. I would like to know your thinking. Why the two circles? I suppose because they're planets, because they are part of like a buttons on a spaceship. They're eyes. It looks like it's someone with a mustache and with big ears. Now that once you start seeing that as a face, then you cannot stop seeing the face, right? Because it looks like those circles are just really red eyes, and it's a guy with a mustache. So I would love to know your thinking behind it, because you're actually using those circles outside. Nice explorations, John T. I would love to know more, probably in the comments. Leave your comments and tell us more about it. Okay, so now we're looking at Mimic Interactive. Mimic Interactive made a pretty cool logo where the spaceships look almost like planes, with wings. Probably that's closer to how a spaceship will look that is like a commercial spaceship. I don't know. I actually don't know anything about them. This looks almost like a logo that can also be used as a poster and as a promotional campaign, because it has like gradients and it has different colors. I wonder how this could look on black and white. Just like on an emblem where you can only use one color. How would all of these elements look? It seems like some of the elements will need some negative space to separate, for example, the fire from the plane. The spaced wordmark has a circle in the middle, and it's obscuring part of the letters. I suppose this is almost like an eclipse, like a planet that is just like the space is the light behind a planet that is just moving, right? It's like a dusk or dawn. I would say that it's probably hard to read for someone that doesn't know what the challenge is, who just doesn't know the company. It's going to be a little bit hard to read. The E could be an F, the C could be a G, the P could be also a B. So be careful with that. Probably if you still want to keep that shape, probably instead of obscuring part of the letters, you just make some of the letters of it, just squish some of the letters, and you still have that shape. I will invite you to explore something like that. Or probably the things you're obscuring is not it doesn't take as much of the wordmark, and that will allow you to still read what is going on. That could be an exploration, but that's just an opinion. That I'm going into solutions, and I shouldn't be telling you solutions, and just telling you what I find that I find a little bit could be improved. It's up to you to find a solution for those problems. So yeah, Mimic. I really like your explorations on the gradients and on the colors, but on the logo, I want to look at a logo that works well as black and white. So I can imagine it. We just love for you to challenge yourself to actually do it. Okay, so now I'm looking at Jernek Gragner's logo. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, man. I'm sorry. And his logo is just a wordmark with really soft circular shapes. And this one is a little bit different from the rest, because it uses negative space to separate the elements from the letters. I don't know, it looks like a little like 70s retro, like funky typeface. Probably that's what you were going for, and I kind of like it just because it's different. It's really easy to read, and it looks like it's very consistent. All the shapes are consistent across the elements on the edges. But maybe my feeling of that 70s retro look is not really what you wanted to go for. So I will probably test it out with other people, see how they're feeling about this typeface that you're using. If that wasn't what you wanted to do, I will test it out and see what other people think. If they actually get that same feeling, then I will start exploring different things. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I liked it. I like it just as its own thing, but I don't think it feels like what the creative brief intended you to create. So yeah, ask other people and keep exploring. Okay, so now I'm looking at Mukul Ingles logo, And apparently this is his first ever project related to graphic design, and he entered this challenge. This is apparently the first logo that he designs. Congratulations, Mukul, on trying out and just like challenging yourself to create something. It's so cool that this kind of challenge is motivating you to create something. For anyone else that is out there as a beginner, this kind of challenges like really pushes you to work on your craft, and I think that's the kind of things that will make you a better designer. So I have some feedback for you. It's a great start. You're using simple shapes and trying to put them together in something that is cohesive. So sometimes when you are trying to get a lot of different shapes and a lot of different letters to fit in and mix together to form a one new thing, sometimes those kind of explorations will get you to a point where you created something that is a little bit too complex, and it's an easy trap to fall into. Go back to drawing on paper different ideas and different explorations of how to put these elements together and create one icon or one symbol. And again, just ask yourself, is this too complicated? Will this be hard to reproduce? Is this something that anyone can memorize and draw it by themselves? So once you get to that place, probably you have something there. I would recommend go back to sketching, sketch a lot of stuff on paper, on the wall, on whiteboards, whatever, and then come back to the computer and start putting things together. You're using 3 colors, and it's good that you're trying to have a color palette. Try to simplify it even more and try to make it black and white, and see if that works. Congratulations, Mukul. It's pretty cool that you're getting into these kind of design challenges. I look forward to seeing more of your creations. Okay, so now we're looking at Reid Sensenbach's logo. And his logo, it's pretty solid, it's pretty strong. It's a work mark that I could totally see in a 60s space race poster that is just telling everyone, we're going to the moon, and we're going to beat the Russians. I really like how the shape of the work mark is bent. It's almost like a little bit of play on time and space and relativity, and I don't know, but it looks cool, right? And it also kind of makes sense on the vastness of space and how it expands. So that's what I'm getting from the treatment of the work mark being bent a little bit. And also I like the edges of the letters that are, in some places they are sharp and some of them are soft. Even though the letters and the typeface are really strong, they still feel welcoming. And I suppose it's also because of that roundness on the shape of how it's bent, that it almost feels like it's hugging you. I like the colors, the use of colors, and with the pink, red, and the blue, it makes sense in this context. And always that kind of combination, it's pretty pleasing to the eyes. I would like to know what is the reasoning behind cutting the circle like that. I suppose it's supposed to be a planet, and I really don't know why cutting it like that. It kind of makes it look like a V. Probably that's what it was. Whatever it was, it's always good to know what the designer was thinking. Great work, Ray. Okay, now I'm looking at Heudi and Heudi's logo, and this one is just a monospaced typeface, and it's also a space logo. I don't know if that was like a, play in typefaces and words. Puns, yeah. The E is just like spaces, like a space between the first 4 letters and the D, the last letter, and that actually makes a little bit of space to put the tagline. I suppose that was the intention behind this, where the logo is almost like flexible and it adapts to different sizes. It also makes it look like like traveling, like a distance. I like the idea of having a logo that is like flexible and it just changes distances. I don't think I've ever seen something like that. That's a pretty cool exploration. I would love to see it apply in different places. I like the typeface, pretty simple, just a monospace typeface used in a clever way. So great work, Yuri. I would love to see more explorations on this. So now I'm looking at Yask's logo, and this logo looks very spacey. It has like on the edges has these rounded corners. It almost feels like that space age mid-century era, and they were using a lot of these shapes in their typefaces and in the furniture and buildings. So I suppose it has some inspirations on that. I also saw that between the S and the P, there's this little negative space that is creating like a star. I don't know, that's pretty clever. I really like that exploration, and it also has a little point in there. I would love to know how does that look on a small size. The logo needs to work on a small size, and I'm pretty sure that little dot might get lost. So if it gets lost, then get rid of it. Already the S and the P, it's already forming that shape. You can already point out that there's a star between the S and the P. Probably don't need for that little star. Or you can just make it a little bit thicker, a little bit bigger, so it actually stays. Even when you shrink down your logo, you can still see it. So I would say explore that. Also, I think the A, maybe it's just an optical illusion, but it makes me feel like that line is a little bit thicker than the line on the top. So just check that. Probably I'm wrong. And also, I think I really like that you're using that round shape in across your logo, but it feels like in some places it's overdoing it. For example, on the D, probably the end of the D doesn't need that shape, or probably it shouldn't be as prolonged. Also on the E, it feels like it's too much. So it's like having an ice cream that has a lot of flavor and then just eating a full pint in one sitting. It's just a lot of sweetness. So and in some spaces, try to reduce that amount of sweetness, and probably it will feel more balanced. That's just an opinion. Just keep playing around with the shapes. Probably in some spaces it doesn't need to be as round, and that's it. Nice work, Jask. So now we're looking at Vish Vector's logo, and it has a typeface that is just is placed in different places of the letters, and I suppose this makes you feel like movement, and it makes you feel like planets that are in different distances, and it almost feels like parallax, where some objects are a little bit far away and some are closer, and then they move, and then you see some elements moving faster and some elements moving a little bit slower. That's what I'm getting from this. It's a little bit hard to read. The P is on the top, and then the A, and then the C. Some people could read it PSCAD. They could read it PA, ED, and SC. In the logo, you want to be as clear as possible, and obviously you want people to be able to read your logo. So at least on a word mark, you want to be very clear. If you still want to have those elements in different positions, probably bring them a little bit closer, and then be very clear on how to read this, like reading from left to right, which is the first letter, which is the second, which is the third, and so on. So it's a little bit more clear and more legible. So good job, Bish. I think it just needs a little bit of work to make it more legible, more clear, and you should be good. Okay, so now we're looking at Vince's logo, and this logo also has an exploration of an icon, not just the word mark. And I think I really like that on this logo I see more context on how this logo is going to be applied. In this example, he put the logo in a poster that says Visit Mars, and I can see the logo working in different backgrounds and different colors. The logo is simple enough that you can put it on any texture background and it will still be legible and readable at a small size. That's pretty good. The icon feels like it's a comet, or it's probably the shadows of a planet, or probably it's the fire from the engine, or it looks almost also like when a space, like an object, it's entering the atmosphere and it's creating that fire. I would say that some of the shapes could be more uniform. The fire or those things that are like going down, they could probably be the same weight. One of them seems too thick and some of them seem too thin, and so they don't feel very well balanced. On the word mark, it's pretty simple. It's readable. You got a little bit playful on the A. That's pretty cool. I would give a try to a different typeface that blends in with your icon a little bit better. They kind of contrast. Sometimes contrast is good, but I feel like probably you can have something that blends in a little bit better. So keep exploring on the typeface, and also just fix some of the elements on your icon, and you should have something that's pretty solid. So now I'm looking at Bichal's logo, and this logo feels like it's a logo that is going to be changing and is going to be dynamic. The letters feel like they're finished and unfinished in some spaces. So I suppose this is more of a logo that is always changing and it's always moving. It's a matter of how you execute these kind of logos, that your execution is flawless to make it feel alive. I would say it's really difficult to get a logo like this to work on all types of media, where you have the animated version of it that looks beautiful, but then that animated version, how is it going to look on a piece of paper or on a spaceship or on a suit? There you don't have the abilities to have something that is animated and is dynamic. So it will be really cool to actually see how that looks on something that is printed, because I feel like if you don't have those outlines that which are really thin, then it will be really unreadable from a long distance or in a small proportion. Try to have a version where this logo is readable at a small scale and is also readable with one single color. So let's see how that works. But I really liked the very simple geometric sans serif that you're using, and the playfulness of it. I really like that, and that's it. Nice work, Vishal. So now we're looking at Kai's logo, and Kai used a simple sans serif, and he got a little bit playful on the E and the D, because it's forming what looks to be just like a spaceship or the top of the spaceship. You can see that the E is forming like the wings on the side, and the D is the top of the spaceship. So it's pretty cool. I can see the E and the D being an icon of itself, where you can just use that, and then when it's time to use a word mark, then that icon becomes part of the word mark. So I can see this as a very flexible logo that you can use in different media. I like the spacing between the letters. I think it's very well balanced. Yeah, it's just simple and clear, readable, legible. I can see this working at a small scale too, because it's thick enough, it's bold enough. So yeah, good work, Kai. Okay, so now I'm looking at Alex Reid's logo. I really like the exploration of an icon that is really big, uses the negative space to form something. So here I see a planet in the background, or probably the sun, I don't know, with a chip just like being launched. I think it's really nice how you were able to use three simple shapes, that circle and those two little wedges, to form something that is really easy to recognize. Yeah, that's a rocket being launched. And also you can see, oh, and that's a planet in the background, or the sun, I don't know what it is. I can see that working by itself, just the icon, and also looks really good with the word mark too. So that lockup, it looks pretty good. It's pretty well balanced. Probably I would recommend trying different typefaces on Spaced. Another typeface that it doesn't feel as heavy. I feel like the P and the A at a small scale, probably there's a more legible typeface that you can use. So try that. Okay, so now we are looking at Let's Talk Branding's logo. And I really like this logo because it's so simple. It's just a circle and has weird circular, very bubbly shape, which makes it look like it's the helmet, I suppose, of an astronaut, or it could also make it look like the glow of a planet. It could also be the top of a spaceship. I don't know, different things that you can use that icon to represent different elements of space. I also like how you used 3 and 3 letters, and also horizontal, like the 6 letters one next to each other, but also having a lockup that is just vertical like that, because in some instances you want a lockup that works like this, in some instances you want a lockup that works horizontally, and I can see that you thought about those things, and it's really good that you thought about those things. The word mark feels very well balanced. The width of all the strokes and also the spacing between the letters feels like it very cohesive. So I really like that too. The word mark by itself works, and the icon by itself works, and then when they're put together, they work really well together too. So that's really, really good. That's congratulations. I really like it. Okay, so now we're looking at Jason Lockwood's logo, and this logo is probably one of my favorites. All the elements are pretty legible. How the shapes are used, it's pretty restrained, but still playful, because you have the C and the E that are forming this spaceship that looks almost like the Enterprise. And also the shapes of some of the letters are rounded, and it has that, again, that spacey look, that space era look, but it's not applied throughout the whole logo. It's not on every corner, it has to be rounded, you know, it's just on the places where it makes sense. It's that treatment is being used. So I really appreciate that. I can see the C and the E that form that little spaceship being used as an icon on itself. You have this system where you have the word mark, where you include the icon in it, and then you have just the icon by itself. And also I'm realizing that little star on the C is not too small and not too big, so it's not as distracting. And also I can see this logo in a small scale. That star is still pretty legible, and also that star could be used as another brand element. So I appreciate that it has all of these different little things that can be used on a brand system. So yeah, great work, Jason. I really like this. Nice. Now I'm looking at James Henson's presentation, and something that I really liked about this is just how everything is very well explained. James was able to put everything in one place and explain all the different elements, how they work together and how they fit in, and his design thinking, what were his inspiration, and even like taking snippets from what other people will think about this logo. So, and I also liked on the concept development how he broke down every little element and how they all merge into one single piece. I'm pretty sure that clients really appreciate when a logo has different meanings, and all those little elements, they know the meaning of all those things. So it almost makes you feel smart when you know these things, you know? It's almost like I know something that you don't. It's like that classic example of the FedEx logo when you tell someone, did you know that in between the letters there's a little arrow that is forming because it's movement, and it's because it's FedEx, and it brings your packages in a really quick way. So I like that all of those, there are some elements there that are like hidden inside the icon, and I'm pretty sure that clients appreciate those things. Having said that, when you try too hard to get those elements, sometimes you get into something that is too complex. I don't think this was the case here. I'm just saying don't overdo it. If you ever want to accomplish that, don't overthink it too much. You know, it's just like some elements, what they mean, and that's it. Not everything has to have a special meaning, you know, it's just legible, and that's it. But here he has different elements that represent travel, the journey from one point to another, the destinations and the orbits and the relationships between the elements, and all these elements form an icon that is part of the word mark on the letter A. I thought that was pretty clever, Probably the outlines could be a little bit thicker. I like that it's really elegant and thin and lightweight, but again, this will be applied and put on a spaceship, and it needs to be readable from a long distance and in a small scale. So I would say that explore something that is a little bit thicker. That's just my opinion. I will be afraid also on the A, since the A makes the word mark a little bit taller, and not everything is it's almost like it's off center a little bit. So I will be afraid that this could make it difficult to put the logo in certain spaces where it probably will feel offset or it feels like it's not very well balanced. But that's something that can be easily adjusted. It's just probably an optical illusion that you have to put the element just a little bit lower and just a little bit to the right, so it's not so out of balance. But it's just something that you can do. I also like how the icon is used in different instances that mean different things. It's the same icon, but with different colors. It means different destinations, and so it starts making sense how this icon is part of a system. I really like how a logo starts being applied in that way. There's not just, oh, look, the logo will look good on a t-shirt. Yeah, whatever, but what does it mean? Is there a way to use this same logo that represents different things? So I think James was able to do that, and that's pretty good. Okay, and I'm going to finish with one last logo, and this is from Case Morton. It's a really simple logo that uses the round corners and the round ends of the letters. I like this logo, and because of how it just looks simple and it looks spacey and looks modern, and it's going fast. Just an idea. Probably the A could be confused with a different letter that is not an A. It could be confused with an N. Or an ñ, like an N with a little tilde on the top. So yeah, just be careful with that. Probably show it to other people and see if they're actually reading it well. I like how the E and the D form this icon, which looks like, I don't know, like a helmet or like the eyes of RoboCop. It's an icon that can be used in different ways, and it's a treatment that I saw in a lot of the logos, by the way, which is pretty cool. It's just different versions of this same idea of trying to find an icon inside the wordmark, and because sometimes it makes it easier to reproduce. You have an icon that it's not a wordmark and the icon. It's all part of the same thing, of the same system. So I like when logos try to explore those kind of ideas. It also, you can see that there was a grid that was used across the logo, and it's pretty consistent. So kudos on that. That's really good. Also, the icon apparently means like a destination, that it takes you to one place and then you go back, and it's like a loop. So that's the meaning of that icon. It's pretty cool. It's clever. Again, once you know these things, it kind of like makes you feel smart. Like, oh, that's cool. And that's something that you can use as an app icon, or you can use across other things where you're not where probably the use of the wordmark is too much, and you can just use the icon. So yeah, great work, Case. I hope you had fun looking at different logos and just like seeing the exploration from other people on the same challenge. It's cool how we'll think different, but in a lot of things we kind of like converge to the same ideas, and that's okay. I think when you have an idea that is just repeated across different logos, that means that it's something that is familiar and something that people will probably recognize. It doesn't mean that people are unoriginal. For me, it mostly means that it's something that like a meme that we all understand, and different minds coming to the same conclusions. So that was it. If you have any comments on the logos, was there a favorite for you? Did you submit something? I don't know. Leave in the comments what you think. And thank you so much. Have a good one.